Okay, so just we'll recap what we discussed in the last session. The last session we created structure. You can call it as chart of account structure also. Okay, we created chart of account structure, and within the structure we created segments, and we created value sets. The value sets we assign to respective segments, and for the same, that's already the point we discussed. And we assign balance and segment flexible qualifier to company segment, national account segment flexible qualifier to account segment. After that, to create the segment values, okay, to create the segment values, we given the privileges to user from user management application, or call it as responsibility. We given the grants. After that, we created segment values only for company segment. So this is what we discussed in the last session and we did in the system. So today what we'll do is, okay, we'll create segment values for a department and account. We'll do it. Okay, we'll go and log into the instance. We are using the user called as operations. Password is welcome. Click on login. Okay, now we have to go to the responsibility called as general ledger vision operations, right? Go to general ledger vision operations USA responsibility, just expand it and expand any one of the submenu and click on any one of the function. Okay, already we gone through the process how to create the segment values for company segment. Now what we'll do is we'll go and create for department and account. So what is navigation? The same navigation, setup, financials, flex fields, key, values. By taking the same navigation we created segment values for company. For department account also we have to use the same navigation. Double click, and here application is general ledger application. Within the general ledger we have a flex field called as accounting ACC. Just tab out, it will fetch, it will select, and structure name is ERP tree. Tab out, it will take a value automatically. And segment, already for company we created segments, and now just select department and click on find. Now here you can create the department values. So if I want to create for account, again I have to go back to the same form. Okay, there I have to give the segment name as account, then only system will accept. So when we are navigating to this page, segment values form, if you ignore, okay, the segment value, it will allow you to create the segment values for any segment. I mean to say here, just say general ledger, accounting, ERP. If I give any segment, I can create the segment values only for that segment. If I don't give any segment name here, and if I click on find, within that chart of accounts we have first segment as company. Place cursor here, use down arrow, it will take you to the department. Use down arrow, it will take you to the account. That's how it works. Okay, so company, then department, then account. But if you take the direct navigation here by giving the segment general ledger, accounting, ERP, I'll give company. I'll click on find. Now I can create the segment values only for company segment. I cannot create any other. If I use down arrow, it won't accept. Okay, so that's how the system behave. Okay, so that it is just when you are trying to create the segment values, what you can do is just you start creating the segment values without selecting segment in this form. Okay, so that means select application general ledger, title is accounting, structure name is ERP, and here I'm not selecting any segment, so click on find. Now here we can see the company segment values. Use down arrow from the keyboard, it will take you to the next segment. Let's go and create few segment values for a department. Here also we given maximum size as 4, so I can take 1000. If you give 1, it will take automatically. See here, if I take 1, it will fill with all the zeros. That's how it works. So let's go with 1000 and say finance department. And we know for each segment value we have to assign segment qualifiers. For each segment value we have to assign segment qualifiers, the same we did in the last session for company segment values. How to assign? It's a very simple process. Go to tab called as values hierarchy qualifiers, place cursor in the qualifiers field and say okay. Just ignore it, say okay. So other department number I am giving as 2000. Here I can write as HR department, place cursor here, say okay. This we can say cancel to say okay. So 3000 department number, I'll say marketing department, place cursor here, say okay. And say 4000 department number, say sales department. This is how you can list out all the departments whatever you have in your company. Okay, okay, fine, done. Now you can save it. Okay, you can just save it. Fine, so done. We created segment values for company and department. Now we'll go and create the segment values for account. Okay, before we create the segment values for account, here we'll discuss one simple point. Say basically we have 5 type of accounts. Just make a note. We have 5 type of accounts. We have 5 type of accounts. Those are assets, liabilities, expense, revenue, and ownership. Ownership equity, or just simply call as ownership. So these are the 5 type of accounts we have. What are the business transaction recording in any process? That account should belong to any one of this type. So let's take simple example. You have a building that you can treat as an asset, or else you have a cash that is also asset, but that is current asset. We don't need to go that much detail type of assets, but simple point here to understand is, so assets that can be current or fixed. So you have to pay some amount to supplier that we call as liability, and you spend something or you are buying something, it may be like you'll be treating as expense, and you are doing some sales, you'll get revenue out of that, and finally whatever the profit you get, that simply you can treat as that is ownership. So for now these are the 5 type of accounts to understand. Just make a note and remember. So whatever the account you are creating, every account you have to classify with any one of this type. So I'll go and create one account called as salaries under account segment. When I'm creating the salaries account, I should specify the salaries comes under which type of account. Salaries always expense to the company. When you are creating the salaries account, it's mandatory you have to specify account type as a expense. So for that is the purpose these accounts will be using. Anyway, we'll go and create and we can understand more on this. Now I have one question. Okay, how many segment qualifiers we have? Anyone?
Total 5.
Total 5. But when you talk about company and department here, okay, after anyone after answer, my request is, yeah, thank you. So we have total five segment qualifiers, but for company and department, when we are creating the segment values, we are able to see only three. The remaining three are, sorry, we are able to see only two. Remaining three are account type, third party control account, and reconcile. Those we are not able to see here. Okay, just note that point so we can understand that further. Okay, now let's move to the account. So use down arrow, it will take us, because when we are navigating to this form we didn't select any segment, so that is the reason we got this flexibility to move from one to other segments within the chart of accounts. So here I'll give 1000. Here I'll create an account called as cash. I'll create an account called as cash. So now just place the cursor in the qualifiers field. You see system is displaying 5 segment qualifiers. So what is the difference when I'm creating the segment values for company and account? What is the difference between company segment values and account segment values? Okay, company we are creating company segment values. For the account we are creating the account segment values. Do you find any difference between these two segment related account values definition? Any
It is
difference?
adding three flex fields. Three flex fields is adding.
Great, you said very correct. It is adding, that point is required here. System is adding 3 additional segment qualifiers for which segment related values? Account segment related values. When you are creating the segment values for account segment, it is adding 3 segment qualifiers. That means for which flex field qualifier we assign to account segment? Which flex field qualifier we assign to account segment?
Natural account segment.
Correct. Natural account segment flex field qualifier. See, after any answer, my request is immediately you can mute, please. Okay. So for account segment, we assign natural account segment flex field qualifier. What the natural account segment flex field qualifier do is, it will add 3 additional segment qualifiers for that segment related values. That's it. Now we assign natural account segment flex field qualifier to this account segment. So for account, under account segment, when we are creating the segment values, for those segment values, it will be adding 3 more segment qualifiers. These 3 we are getting because we assign natural account segment flex field qualifier to account segment. That is the purpose we assign natural account segment flex field qualifier to account segment only. The reason is, under account segment only we'll have all the accounts. The account need to be specified which type of account that is, expense or revenue or ownership. Okay, remaining third party control account reconcile, those are separate features. Anyway, in further classes we'll be discussing on that. Now I'm creating the account called as cash. Okay, and I'm selecting allow budgeting, say yes, you don't need to change. Allow posting also yes. Cash is what type of account? Only 5 we have here, but you can find 2 more values also, but don't treat those as account types. Okay, I think in this version they removed that, generally that's not required. Okay, these are the 5: asset, expense, liability, ownership, and revenue. Now which account type you have to select for cash? Asset. Say okay, then say okay, that's all. We created one segment value under account segment. So 2000, I'll say some admin expense. Just place cursor here. Allow budgeting, allow posting, yes. Expense, admin expense. For admin expense, account type should be expense only. Say okay. 3000. Okay, I'll create one account called as returned earnings account. So what is the meaning of returned earnings account? It's very simple. The net income account. The net income account here in the application we are naming as a returned earnings account. What is the net income? Revenue minus expense. Okay, the revenue minus expense, the variance only you call as net income. That same net income account in our system we are maintaining as a retained earnings account, which is very very important for every company, right? So that is the target why companies are doing the business. So place the cursor here to assign the qualifiers. Anyway, allow budgeting posting is yes. As of now, just accept yes only. Further sessions will be discussing why yes, in which scenario that should be no. Okay, but for now, for retained earnings means net income. Net income account type should be which type of account? Ownership. Select ownership. Okay, just for our understanding, these are enough. Okay, these accounts are enough. Later we'll create whatever the accounts we require. Just save it. So this is how we have to create the segment values. If you have any questions on this, please. And before that, another point is we assigned natural account segment flexfill qualifier to account segment. Instead of assigning, okay, we assigned, that is the reason we are getting 3 additional segment qualifiers. Instead of assigning natural account segment flexfill qualifier to account segment, if you go and assign account segment, what will happen? Please, anyone? Instead of assigning the natural account segment flexfill qualifier to account segment, if I assign the same qualifier to company, what result you can expect?
It is having with the 6 fixed segment qualifiers, all segment qualifiers it will add.
Yes, here for now for company we have 2 only. If you assign the natural account segment flexfill qualifier to company, the 3 more also will be added. If you get here account type, is there any meaning for that? No, these are not accounts to specify account types. That is the reason natural account segment flexfill qualifier should be assigned to account segment only. So that's what we did. So any questions on this, please? Any questions?
Yeah, Lakshman, good evening. Rafi here.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, Lakshman, you said that if you want to give segment values, we need permissions, right?
Correct.
Yeah. If you want to know which version we are using, I mean instance, 12.1.3 or 12.2.4 like that, how can we know that?
Yeah, I'll show you. Okay, fine. Okay, so if you want to know the which version you are using, here you may be in maybe any form, doesn't matter here. So on the top here you have a help option. Click on that. Okay, within that you have a one option called as about Oracle applications. Okay, go to help, there select about Oracle applications. Click on this. It will give you the information about not only application version, database version also it will give. So we are here with this login, operations login. Okay, and this is all about database server information. It's nothing but 11 means 11G we are using. This is the application version 12.2.4. this is how you can find. Okay, done. So this is the process to know which version of instance we are using. Fine. There are some other points also to discuss, but this is not right time. That is the reason I intentionally I was not showing. And again, whenever you are recording the transactions or whenever you are creating something in which table the data will get stored, also we can see that. I'll be showing that, but for now it's not required. Anyway, we created segment values for all the segments. Then say just close it and say okay. Okay, done. So what is the next step? Okay, the next step is we have to create the we have everything ready now. Calendar, currency already we enabled, and chart of accounts we created. Accounting method we no need to create. So now this is the process we are going to follow here. So this is the process we'll be following. As a first step, we'll go and create the primary ledger by selecting calendar, currency, chart of accounts, and accounting method. The second step would be after creating the primary ledger, okay, we'll go on to create the responsibility, and along with the primary ledger I'll be explaining few more points. We'll discuss on that. but as a standard process you try to understand here. Okay, then we'll create responsibility, and the third point is we'll create the user. Okay, let me explain this way. Okay, let's go with the process. Let me explain just here. Oh, fine. Okay, let's take this. We have one additional point also. That's what I'm just thinking to add. No issues. Let's go with this process. Just try to understand this process. That is just one additional point where we can add at the time of primary ledger creation. That's not a big point. Okay, but it's very important, but we'll be adding. So process wise, first we'll create the primary ledger. After creating the primary ledger, we'll go and create the responsibility. As a third step, we'll assign the primary ledger to responsibility. Then as a fourth step, we'll go and create the user. As a fifth step, we'll assign the responsibility to user. Okay, this is the process we are going to follow. Okay, anyway, I'll be explaining very detailed level. If you are getting the point from here, okay, or else anyway, just we'll do all those in the system, and before that we'll discuss and we'll do it. Okay, first step is we'll create the primary ledger. Second step is we'll create the responsibility. Third step, the primary ledger we have to assign to responsibility. The fourth step is we'll create the user. This responsibility will assign to this user, so that that user can have access to this responsibility. When this user is working on this responsibility, by using this primary ledger, that user can record the transactions within the responsibility environment. That is the logic how it works. No issues. We'll see that again. There are a few more points to include, but for now just very high level information I am providing. Okay, we'll talk on that. We'll see the detail level. Once again I'll explain. Now what we have to do is we have to create primary ledger. Now we have to create the primary ledger. Okay, fine. Then take the navigation. Just takes a navigation. Just done. Okay, take the navigation. Task name is create primary ledger. Create primary ledger. How to create the primary ledger? Hope everybody is taking the note. That's very important if you want to get benefit out of this. So take the navigation from general ledger, vision operations responsibility. We are just taking the navigation to create the primary ledger. Navigation is setup, financials. I'll just write here since it's very important for us. Setup, financials. Then go to accounting setup manager. We should remember all these navigations. Okay, setup, financials, accounting setup manager, ASM. In short, we call as ASM. Expand this, and here we have a function name called as accounting setups. Take this navigation. Accounting setup. By taking this navigation, we can create the primary ledger. Okay, by taking this navigation, we can create the primary ledger. Task name is create primary ledger. To create the primary ledger, okay, navigation we are taking from which responsibility? General ledger, vision operations, USA. So the responsibility we have for GL application. So simply I can write here as a GL. Okay, from GL, general ledger application, or say from general ledger responsibility, we have to take the navigation as setup, financials, accounting setup manager, ASM, accounting setup. By taking this navigation, you can create the primary ledger. Now we'll go and see how to do that. Okay, any confusion or doubt? If you need time to make a note, let me know. We can go accordingly. Okay, this is the navigation you have to take. And what are the navigation you take in this? From the navigator on top, you can see the same navigation. Setup, financials, accounting setup manager. Now we just selected accounting setups. Just double click. It will open the web page. Primary ledger will create in the web page environment, not in the form based environment. Okay. So this is a place where we can create our primary ledger. Fine. So if you have any primary ledger already created, from here you can search. Basically this is a search option they given. Search. Here you can search for your ledger, but we didn't create any primary ledger. We are going to create our primary ledger now. So for that reason, what we have to do is just click on create accounting setup. Okay, what we have to do, first we have to take this navigation. Once you take this navigation, we'll be landing in this page. See the title you can see here as a accounting setup manager. Okay, here we have a tab called as create accounting setup. Click on this. Okay, click on this and click on next. Click on next. Click on the tab and click on next. Now here we can create our primary ledger. Okay, we can create our primary ledger. Let's go and give the name. I'll give the name as ERP3 India primary ledger. Just write the name. Use the similar naming convention also when you are writing. Company name, country name, and what you are creating. Company name is ERP3, country is India, what we are creating primary ledger, the same. Now how to create the primary ledger? By grouping or by selecting calendar, currency, chart of accounts and accounting method. Here we have those fields to select. Chart of accounts already we created. If you want to search and find your chart of accounts, click on this search option and you can go and search. So here I may search for ERP. Click on go. It's coming here. I can select and I can say select. That's how system will select. So instead of doing all this, what I can do simply in the field called as chart of accounts, I'll type ERP3. Just type ERP3, see automatically the system is loading. If any chart of accounts available in the instance which starts with ERP3, that is displaying. Yeah, yes, this is the one which we created. Now from here you can select, simple process. Now, accounting calendar. We created ERP3 accounting calendar. So type ERP3. If any calendar is available in the system, okay, which name will match with this ERP3, that will system will display. You select it. So as a process of primary ledger creation, we selected chart of accounts under accounting calendar. Now we have to select our local currency, nothing but functional currency. For India, local currency is INR. So tab out, it will fetch. Else just you type IN or say INR, it will load the value. Yes, INR, Indian rupee. Select this currency. And accounting method, that is CDAT, which Oracle is providing. But now you can select standard accrual. You type standard, it will display. From there you can select. So what is the meaning of standard accrual? We'll discuss once we get into the subledger applications. Hope you are aware of what is the meaning of subledger applications. Already we discussed. Other than GL, all applications we call as subledger applications. So here which subledger accounting method we have to select? Standard accrual. You select it. Why we are selecting? Definitely we'll discuss before we start working on the relevant areas of the application. Select standard accrual. That's all. So we are providing all this information. We are giving the primary ledger name and we are selecting. Remember the terminology, what exactly we are doing. We are selecting the chart of accounts and we are selecting the calendar, currency and the subledger accounting method. That means by selecting all these, we are creating the primary ledger here. So after giving all this information, click on next. Click on next. Now system is asking for the confirmation. See here the message you can go through. Carefully review your accounting structure before saving. Once you saved, you cannot change certain things whatever you included within this. So here it is giving the information. We given the name as a ERP3 India primary ledger and type is our primary ledger only. Currency we selected as INR. Chart of account is ERP3 accounting flex field. Okay, and our calendar name is ERP3 accounting calendar. Within that the period type is okay ERP3 period. Okay, so basically we given as ERP3 monthly, since this instance is again just we installed. So here I just asked some other guy to do the same status, but it seems to be given the different name. No issues. We know how to create. We created the same. Okay, and we selected this is the subledger accounting method. Done. So these all selection is correct. This is what we created. This is our intention. So the same way we are done. Now what you can do is, if this information is everything is fine, you can click on finish. Otherwise, if something wrong, you may go back and you can correct it. Okay, now this information is fine, then click on finish. Okay, click on finish. Done. System created primary ledger. Now it is asking whether we want to return to the accounting setup, means home page. After taking the navigation, we landed on this accounting setup manager home page, right? It will take us to that place. The other option we have as a defined accounting options. Okay, define accounting options, we have two options. You can select any one of them. We'll talk about defining accounting options. Okay, just you can select return to accounting setup. Click on return to accounting setups. It will take us to home page. This is the home page. Basically, if you take this navigation, we'll be landing in this page only. That is the home page. Now we can search and find our primary ledger. Our primary ledger name is ERP tree. Click on go. Nothing but search. So this is what we created. Our primary ledger is created. Now if you see this status indicators, the status indicates completed, this indicates in progress, this icon indicates not started. What is our ledger status? In progress. That means our ledger creation is not yet completed. Okay, so what we have to do is, once you create the primary ledger as a mandatory, as a compulsory, we have to add the retained earnings account in our primary ledger. Just take the point, add retained earnings account to primary ledger. Take the point, add retained earnings account to primary ledger. So add retained earnings account to primary ledger. So how to add retained earnings account to primary ledger? So because this is very important account for every company, right? Retained earnings means net income. Okay, so that is a must. That is a very key account which need to be maintained as a part of ledger. So if you want to add that retained earnings account to any new ledger which you create, okay, from here don't take any points. I'll show you the process. Don't take any point. I'll again redo. Before that, we have one more point to understand. See here, I'll click on don't take from here, just you take up to search. We searched and this is the status. From now, whatever I'm going to do, you don't take it, just try to understand. Again, I'll show you where we have an option to go and enable, then only this process will work. What is the meaning of that? Everything we'll discuss. Click on update accounting options. The moment we create our primary ledger, along with that, automatically all these options system will add to our primary ledger. This is our primary ledger name. So once you click on update, it will open all these options. That means these all options are automatically created by system and all are available within our primary ledger. Now what we can do is you can click on update here. Okay, let me show you once again the same process. Search for your primary ledger, then click on update. After clicking on update, it will open the ledger. Within the ledger we have ledger options. Against the ledger options, click on update. But don't take these points. Okay, don't take these points. Okay, here system is showing some error message. So if you experience with this kind of error, what you can do is, it's very simple. You can go to your chart of accounts and recompile. Once again submit this to compile. So we know, like, setup, financials, flex fields, key, segments, right? This is the navigation we used to create the primary ledger. You can go to find. Your application name is general ledger, flex field is accounting flex field, select and place cursor here and click on find. What is our chart of accounts name? ERP. Now what you can do is, once again submit for compile. This sort of issues will get resolved. You may try once again, not an issue. So just make sure that it is ending without any error or warnings. You know how to navigate to this request form, right? How to navigate? View, request, find. Now we'll be landing on SRS window. Already we discussed this window we call as SRS. Okay, if you get that kind of issues when you just open, if you are finding some error messages, once again submit your chart of account structure to compile. That's all. Now you can just go and try on that. Okay. Okay, just you can click on this tab, accounting setup. It will be taking you to the home page. Here search for ledger ERP3, then click on go. Click on this update accounting options, the pencil icon, and within that you can find ledger options. Click on update. Now see, you don't see any error, but don't think every time you'll be getting. Okay, if you get, that is a solution. Simple. You can go and recompile your chart of account structure, then automatically the issue will get resolved. But don't take all these points, just try to understand. Okay, that you, if you get some error, you have to go and resubmit for you have to recompile. That point you can take, the rest of process you don't need to take. So we are here. If you notice, this is the name we given for our ledger. Just remember this point. Okay, right? So this is the name we given for our ledger, and automatically system is creating the short name for our ledger. How it is creating? Okay, some limited characters it is copying from the ledger name only. After that it is giving some number. Number is 1020. What happens, you know, whenever you create the ledger, automatically system will create the ledger ID in the backend. For each ledger it will create one ID. That means for our ledger, whatever ID created in the backend, that will be, okay, system is presenting within the short name. And our ledger functional currency also system will take as a part of short name. That means the ledger short name is combination of ledger name, means partial name, and ledger ID, as well as ledger currency or say functional currency. That's how system will auto create. And how we created primary ledger? By selecting calendar, currency under chart of accounts and accounting method, right? Calendar, currency, chart of accounts under accounting method. By selecting these 4 C's, we created primary ledger. If you notice here, this is the currency we selected. Can we change the currency? After creating the ledger, you cannot change the currency. See, this is grayed out. You cannot change. It's freezed. This field is not open. And when I talk about chart of accounts also field, this option is freezed. It's not open option. And accounting calendar also freezed. Okay, accounting calendar also freezed. Out of 4 components, calendar, currency, chart of accounts, and accounting method, first 3 are freezed. Currency you cannot change, chart of accounts you cannot change, accounting calendar also you cannot change. Remember all these points, just notice. So after creating the primary ledger, calendar, currency, and chart of accounts you cannot change. If at all you want to change, you can change subledger accounting method any point of time. Why the flexibility Oracle given, that also we'll discuss. Okay, now anyway, we no need to do anything. It's all about we are noticing. Okay, by default system is taking first ever open period as a April 2016, because this is the period, this is the first period in our accounting calendar. In this accounting calendar, April 16 is the first period. So that's the reason system is taking automatically. You don't need to focus on all these points, just it's automatic system will take, you have to observe. That's all. Next, you can click on next. And here you have to provide the retained earnings account. Okay, you have to provide the retained earnings account. Just click on search. It won't accept. It won't accept. You cannot select. Okay, we'll talk on that. So how many companies? Just here I have to select the first company. Click on search. Click on go. It will display all the companies. I'm selecting first company. Select this radio option and say select. Company is selected. Company name is erp3.com consulting services. Then select department. Click on search. Click on go. Select and say select. Finance department. Account. Which account you have to select? Retained earnings account. Click on go. select returned earnings account, click on select. Okay, we selected these three company values, these three segment values: company, department, account. These you can call as codes. This is the company code, this is the department code, this is account code. Now what we have to do is, by using these three codes, we have to create the code combination. Okay, we have to create the code combination. So here what code combination we have to create? 1000.1000.3000. This is how we have to create the code combination. As of now, these three are separate codes. Okay, you have to create this kind of code combination. Anytime we created this combination in the system? No, this is the first time we are trying to create. That is the reason this combination we call as new code combination. Okay, by selecting company, department, account, these three different values, if you want to create this kind of combination, okay, you cannot create directly. See here, I selected here, this option should open generally. The create option is grayed out. Creation option is grayed out. Reason is, we don't have any permissions to create the new code combinations in our system for this primary ledger. Where we can give the permission, where we have this company, department, and account related information, all the information is available within our chart of accounts. That means we have to go to the chart of accounts. Chart of account level, you have to give the permission saying that within the chart of accounts, what are the segments values we have across the segments. By using those segment values, user can create the new code combination like this. Okay, user is allowed to create new code combination. That's how you have to give the permissions. Simple point here is, to create the new code combinations, we need permissions. Where to set and how to set, we'll see that. Okay, I'm just closing this anyway. That is the reason I said don't take all this. So first I want to give you the information. Based on that, we can go and do it. I'm just cancelling everything. Just I'm refreshing accounting setup. Okay, so what we have to do is to create the new code combination in the system. To create the new code combinations in the system, we have to get the permissions. The permission we can set at chart of account level. That means now we have to go to our chart of accounts. Now we have to go to our chart of accounts. What is the navigation to go to chart of accounts? From here you can take the point. Take the point. Take the point in your, okay, take the point. Take the point as, say, enable, allow dynamic, okay, inserts at COA. Take this point. So we have to enable allow dynamic inserts at chart of account level, so that within the chart of accounts, what are the segment values we have, we can select to create the code combination. If you don't enable allow dynamic inserts, what happens? You cannot create the new code combinations. By enabling allow dynamic inserts, you can create the new code combinations, okay, within that chart of accounts. That is the point here to understand. Let's go and enable the allow dynamic insert checkbox, so that within that chart of accounts we can create the new code combinations by selecting any company, any department, and any account. Let's go and do it. So first we have to navigate to chart of accounts. From here you take all the points. From here please make a note of all these points. So take the task name as enable allow dynamic inserts at chart of account level. So now we are going to enable, we are going to give the permissions for our chart of accounts, where user can use the chart of accounts to create the new code combinations by selecting any one of the company, department, and account. Otherwise, no user can use those values from the chart of accounts to create any combinations, which generally refers to transactions. Fine. Take the navigation, setup, financials, flex fields, key segments. Navigation is setup, financials, flex fields, key, segments. Okay, by taking this navigation, we can find our chart of accounts. Our chart of account level, we have to enable the checkbox called as allow dynamic inserts. If you enable the checkbox, okay, we can go and we can create the new code combinations. Okay, just now there we tried, right? There we tried it, the option, that small tab is grayed out, create. So that will get enabled if you enable the checkbox here. Just go to segments and go to your chart of account structure. Click on find, type general ledger, and the title should be accounting flex field. Select this combination and say OK. And here you can place the cursor here. Instead of searching for your chart of accounts in between all these chart of accounts, just place cursor here, click on find and type search for ERP tree. Just type E, it will fetch, because that means there are no other chart of account structure which name starts with the ERP or E. So this is the one. Now we are referring this checkbox. This is our chart of account structure. For our chart of account structure, we have to enable the checkbox. Allow dynamic inserts. If you enable the checkbox, system will allow us to create the new code combinations by using this chart of accounts. Within the chart of accounts, we have a segments. For each segment, we have a value sets. Within the value sets, we have values. By using those values, we can create the new code combinations. Okay, and one more point here, see, we freeze it. Since we freezed, you cannot go and do any changes. So you cannot change the company department, the segment names. You cannot touch anything. All are freezed, gray color. But if you unfreeze it, say OK, it will allow you to change anything. Okay, that is the reason we are freezing, just to to protect, okay, the user changes on the structure. We are enabling. And before, other point also discussed, without freezing the flex field, okay, our chart of accounts, you cannot compile also. That point also discussed. Anyway, that is there. So now the point here is, for our chart of accounts, we have to enable allow dynamic inserts. If you enable allow dynamic inserts, then only the segment values you can use from this chart of accounts. Otherwise, you cannot use to create any combinations or transactions, anything. Enable the checkbox and again submit for compile. You should do that. Okay, enable allow dynamic inserts and again submit for compile. Now we can go and create the, now we can go and select the account called as returned earnings account for our primary ledger. Now let's try to do it. From here, take all the points. Okay, whatever, just okay, take all the points. Here, search for ERP tree, give the name, take all the points, then click on go. You can find our ledger record. Click on this update icon. Okay, click on this update icon, that will open and it will give many options. Out of that, we can see one option called as ledger options. We have one option called as ledger options. Against ledger options, you can just click on update. Okay, against the ledger options, just you can click on update. After clicking on update, here you no need to do anything. Already we discussed a few points which we can update, which we cannot update. Click on next. And here we have that account called as returned earnings account. See here, this field is mandatory. They given the star mark, asterisk mark. So that is the reason wherever you see this, the fields are mandatory. Here they given also this mark indicates required fields, mandatory fields. So now here you have to select the returned earnings account code combination. So click on search. Okay, just click on this company. Just click on okay, department. Click on returned earnings account. Okay, seems to it's not taking the updates. We'll just close and reopen. It will work. Sometimes it takes some time also. In that case, just only the option is just we have to wait. Just what I'll do is here we'll go and verify that is completed normal or not. Okay, done. So I'll just log out and log in, and we'll try the same. Just log out. So once you enable that allow dynamic insert checkbox, sometimes it takes time to reflect where it should apply. So operations password is welcome. Go to accounting setup manager. The navigation is, you have to go to general ledger vision operations USA user, general ledger vision operations USA, and expand. Click on enter, or any one of the function. It will open the general ledger responsibility. Okay, just close these forms. Navigation is setup, financials, accounting setup manager, right? The same navigation we taken earlier. The accounting setups. And here you can search for your primary ledger, ERP tree. Click on go and click on update. And here you should click on update against the ledger options and click on next. Now here we have to provide the return earnings account. Click on search. But still it is not updating. Here basically this create, the create tab should get enabled. Okay, the create tab should get enabled. That's how it should work. Okay, it may take some time and all. Fine. Let me take it to the next step, but as of now we are not able to select the returned earnings account, that we are sure. So but we'll do it bit later, but for now just you treat as a we added returned earnings account. On that base we'll proceed to next step. But wherever it's I mean the dependency and all, at that time, by the time system will update, and we'll try after some time. But for now, how to just add the returned earnings account, we'll see the further, I mean after some time. Okay, you have to select the company. You select any one of the company. You have multiple companies, you cannot select all. Here the important point is only account is mandatory. Along with that we have a company department, so you have to select any one of the company and any one of the department. It won't reflect in different way. Based on the business transactions only, we'll be getting returned earnings account for respective company. So here you have to select the account, select returned earnings account. Here see, when you are just searching here, we have different options. You can select here, then you can click on select, then it will be selected. Instead of selecting this radio option, clicking on select directly, you can click on quick select. Quick select means with one click it will get selected. Okay, basically this should get enabled. Generally it takes some time. Generally it takes some time. So in that case, just only we have to wait. We cannot do anything with that. So anyway, this is how you have to provide the returned earnings account here. After completing the returned earnings account, I mean after giving the returned earnings information here, account code combination here, what is the next step we have to do? We'll discuss on that. But anyway, by the time we start with the transaction and all, definitely it's a must, it's a mandatory. Before that only it's required. We'll complete it. But instead of waiting, it may take 10 minutes or 20 minutes, half an hour. There's no fixed time within how much time it will get updated. Generally it will get updated immediate base. Sometimes it takes time. So for that, instead of waiting to see the updates, we'll proceed on the next step. Anyway, we have to do that. There's no huge big dependency. Fine. So think like just we provided a return earnings account. Okay, we enabled allow dynamic insert the chart of account level. That will allow the user to select the return earnings account code combination. Okay, think that is done. Let me once again check here why that we enabled it, right? No doubt enabled and saved it. Yeah, the checkbox is enabled. Just once again I'll just unfreeze I'll uncheck. Just you don't need to do all those things, but just to test, I'm just trying all those, nothing else. I'll submit for once again to recompile. I'll go to the SRS window, view request, find. Close it. We'll go and try once again. I'll close this also.
Lakshman, do you need to save the changes as well there on accounting flexible?
Accounting flexible? No. Once the moment you try to close, it will be just triggering the request compile. Auto save here not required. Okay. Automatically system will save it. Now just we'll go to our primary ledger, setup, financials, accounting setup manager, accounting setups. So inside of the chart of account, what are the changes you do, you should save it. Outside of the chart of account means in the form where you are giving the structure name and all, where you are enabling that allow dynamic inserts. There you don't need to do that. Just if you try to close, it will save, it will trigger the program which will save and it will compile. So here search for ERP tree, click on go, click on update. The same process again, click on update against the ledger options, click on next, go to return earnings account. Let's see how it is going to be now. Same, still it is not updated. We don't need to worry about it. Anyway, we have to complete this. We'll complete. Okay, we'll complete it, no issues, leave it. Fine, think we given that account and we will be giving, just for now, just think we given that account. So that means our primary ledger is completed. Now, how many companies we have as a part of our primary ledger? How many companies we have? We have 4 companies, right? We have 4 companies we have as a part of our primary ledger. What are those? We given erpt.com. What we given something like consulting services. Okay, erpt.com. BPO services, erpt.com. Software development. And other one we given as erpt.com trainings. So these are 4 different businesses we are running. Now when you are running the company, definitely you should go with the registration process. Now say these 4 companies, 4 different businesses we are doing in India. Now tell me how many registrations are required. So the companies have operations. Okay, the company have all the operations in India only. They are doing 4 different vertical of businesses. In that case, how many registrations we required? Anyone?
Maybe only one.
Only one? Any other answers?
Yeah, one is required.
One is required. Yeah, here one is enough, or else you can go with the 4 registrations also. Okay, you can go with the one is enough, but if the company has large volume of the business transaction or big business process, and where they are doing it's a kind of very big company and they have a huge consulting services operations and all, in that case they can go with a separate registrations also. You take example as Tata. The Tata has a business, Tata Group has a different businesses, TCS, Tata Plastic, Tata Steel, Tata Motors. But since the company is very big and their operations are very large operations, so that is the reason what they have a separate registration. In the same way here we have a flexibility depending on the how the organization is managed, complete enterprise is managed. Accordingly we can just have a registrations accordingly. In this scenario you can go with one registration or separate registration. So let's take example as one registration. Let's take example as one registration. If you have one registration, Okay, if you have one registration, the registration information also you have to maintain in the system. Okay, company registration information also you have to maintain in the system. How many registrations you have, those many registration records you have to maintain in the system. Now let's take simple example as we have only one registration. So if you have only one registration, that registration information we have to maintain in the system with the naming convention called as legal entity. Just try to understand this point. The company registration information we have to maintain in the system with the concept called as legal entity. Short name is LE. Okay. The company registration information we have to maintain the system as a legal entity. To run these four companies, if you have four registrations, yes, you have to create the four legal entities. To run this company, if you have only one registration, in that case, only one legal entity you have to create. You may create, if you have only one registration, you may give the naming convention. You may create like this. You will say erp3.com. Say you are running the business in India, so I'll mention as a erp3.com, or just say erp3. We want to include this .com. So erp3 India legal entity. That's it. If you take the case, for four businesses, you have a separate registrations. Legal entity. Okay. And erp3.com BPO services legal entity, and erp3.com software development legal entity, and training legal entity. Okay, so this is how just you have to create the legal entities separately. Okay, fine. You take this case only. We have four businesses. For each business we have separate registration. You take this case just to give you the understanding I am taking. Otherwise we can go with only one legal entity, but just I want to just talk about a few points how it works. Okay, we created these four legal entities. These legal entities to support which business? Consulting services. That means the legal entity is nothing but registration information. Which legal entity will be supporting which company or which business? The legal entity we have to assign to that company. What we have to do? We have to assign the legal entity to company. Every legal entity you have to assign to the respective company. Now, okay, ERP3 consulting services legal entity will assign to ERP3 consulting services company. ERP BPO services legal entity will assign to ERP3 BPO services. ERP3 software development legal entity will assign to, okay, the software development, and ERP3 training legal entity we have to assign to this training. Okay, so this is how we have to do, but in the system that is not possible. Generally this is how it works. Okay, that's how you have to create the relation, but in the system directly you cannot assign these legal entities to these companies. In the system process what we have to do is, okay, I'll just explain you here. I hope you are clear what is the meaning of legal entity. First point. Okay, the first point is what is the meaning of legal entity? It's nothing but the entity registration information, or the company registration information only we treat as a legal entity as per system. The system, the registration information, when you create the legal entity, there will provide with what name we registered this company, what is the registration number, where this office is located, the registration address. Okay, all the information will be provided. Fine. So now the process, as per process, will create the primary ledger. Okay, we created ERP3 India primary ledger. Within this primary ledger we selected calendar, currency, chart of accounts, and accounting method. When you select chart of accounts, within the chart of accounts we have a segment called as company. Under that company we have four companies, right? That means simple point, you take the four companies we have within this primary ledger. The company 1000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. Okay, we have primary ledger. Within the primary ledger, we have 4 companies. To run the 4 companies, say you have these 4 registrations. So the 4 you have to create as a legal entities. Okay, you will create the legal entity. Okay, now just you can take as a one legal entity. So what we'll do is we'll create the legal entity. First, create primary ledger. Here we're taking what we created already. Now what we have to do is create legal entity. What name we can create the legal entity? Say ERP3 India legal entity. Okay, fine. Now you have to specify the relation between these companies which are there as a part of chart of accounts. Okay, and how many legal entities you have. That means you have to specify under which legal entity, which company you are running, under which registration means legal entity, under which legal entity, which company we are running, that specification we have to give in the system. So directly you cannot specify this company we are running under this legal entity, this registration. When you say legal entity, remember registration. So directly you cannot go and specify this company, say company 1000 is nothing but here consulting services. Okay, consulting services. So that's how we take in the numbering, right? I'm referring the number. So in the system directly we cannot go and specify company 1000 is we are running under this registration. The option is not available in the system. To get that option, what we have to do is, after creating the legal entity, the legal entity you have to assign to primary ledger. What we have to do? The legal entity you have to assign to primary ledger. Then the legal entity and the primary ledger will have a relation. Through that relation, you can specify which company you are running under which registration. If you have 4 legal entities, what we have to do is, first we'll create the primary ledger, then we'll create the 4 legal entities. 4 legal entities we have to assign to primary ledger. Then you can go and specify, okay, this legal entity this is a company 1000 where we are running the business operations by following this registration. That means you can map, you can connect this company with this legal entity, the second company 2000 with this legal entity, 3000 with this legal entity, 4000 with this legal entity. That means which company we are running under which registration, that specification we have to give in the system. As per system process, what we have to do is, first we have to create the primary ledger, and when we create the here we created, but always remember within the primary ledger how many companies we have. Here we have 4. Okay, 1000, 2000, 3000, 4000. After primary ledger creation, create legal entity. Okay, we'll see anyway that how to create and all. I'll show you in the system. After creating the legal entity, what we have to do is assign legal entity to primary ledger. Assign legal entity to primary ledger. Now my question is, company segment we can call as which segment? Anyone? As per our chart of accounts, balancing segment.
Balancing segment.
Correct. Why we are calling company segment as a balancing segment?
Company will balance all type of transactions and everything, right?
Maybe your statement is correct, but what we did based on that, I don't agree. Any other definition?
Yeah, assigning balance segment to company. That's why we call it as.
Correct, exactly. We assign balancing segment flexible qualifier to company. Because of that reason, we are calling as company as balancing. All the time, company may not be balancing in different businesses. Okay, that is the reason I said 99%. Company only balancing, not 100%. So simple point, why we are calling as company as a balancing? Because we assign balancing segment flexible qualifier to company. You may have company, you may have something else, some other segment. But if you assign balancing segment flexible qualifier to other segment, the other segment will become balancing. segment, your company won't become balancing segment. Reason, you are not assigning the balancing segment flex field qualifier to company segment. So this is the point you have to understand. Why company segment is balancing? Because balancing segment flex field qualifier is assigned to company segment. That is the reason. So when you call it as company segment, under company segment, what are the segment values we have? We simply call as company segment values. Segment name is company. The values definitely we call it as company segment values. The company segment now we are calling as balancing segment value. Sorry, balancing segment. Under balancing segment, what are the values we have? We can call as anyone?
Balancing segment values.
Balancing segment values. Company segment values, under company, what are the values we have? We call as company segment value. If you treat company segment as a balancing, because we assign the balancing segment flex field qualifier, so based on the qualifier name, that just we are calling the segment name as a balancing. If it is a balancing segment, the values will become balancing segment values only. So now simply the company segments you can call as balancing segment values. Notice this point. Okay, balancing segment values, BSV. Remember this term and everything. Okay, balancing segment values. Which segment we call as balancing segment values? Anyone? Which segment values we call as balancing segment values?
Company segment values.
Maybe correct, but not exactly the definition point of view. Which segment values we call as balancing segment values?
The segment having a balancing flexible qualifier. So what are the values underneath that? That's called balancing segment
Yeah,
values.
that's how we have to drive. So straight away we should not go with the company only, because company may not be. Which segment? So what are your balancing segment values means you may answer in the different way. You may not say company. That is the reason. So under balancing segment, what are the values we have? Those we call as balancing segment values. Okay, that can be company or something else. You should not point out company or something else. Okay, so always it should be generic based on the logic. So here in our case company. Okay, generally what do you mean by balancing segment values? Means what are the segment values we have under balancing segment? Those segment values we call as balancing segment values. Your balancing segment can be company or entity or something else also. That's how we have to understand. Okay, done. Now from now let's call these company values as a balancing segment values only. The reason, for company segment only we assign balancing segment flex field qualifier. Under company, these four company, under company segment we have these four companies. So these four companies values let's call as balancing segment values. From now let's stop calling as a company segment values, call as a balancing segment values. So we are assigning the legal entity to primary ledger. Now what we have to do is, which balancing segment values or which company values, which companies who are running under the specific registration, okay, we have to do the mapping. Okay, which company is following which registration. Now take simple example, we have only one registration. That means these four companies will be running under same registration, means under same legal entity. So to specify, to address that in the system, we have to address in the system saying that we have four companies. The four companies are following under the four companies businesses we are running by following the same registration. To prove this statement in the system, what we have to do is we have to assign BSVs, means balance and segment values. So I'll write it. Okay, we have to assign balance and segment values. Balance segment values means BSV. We have to assign balance and segment values to what? We have to assign the balance segment values to anyone. Just let's keep this this sort of interaction sometimes. Yeah.
To primary ledger.
We have to assign the balance segment values to anyone.
To legal entity?
Legal entity, yes. That's what we are trying to understand. So which company you are running under, which registration we are going to specify. That is the reason we have to assign the balance and segment values to the respective legal entities. Okay. If you have only one legal entity, if you have 4 companies, definitely 4 companies will be assigned to same legal entity. Done. So if you complete these all, that means as per system you are doing the business through legal process. That means you have 4 companies. If you go and directly, if you record the business transaction, there is no meaning. If you specify in the system like, yes, I have 4 companies, okay, for the 4 companies this is what I have a registration, and again exactly you have to specify, okay, you have 4 companies, will be specifying by creating the primary ledger, and by creating the legal entity you will be saying, yes, I have a registration. Okay, by assigning the balance and segment values to legal entity, you will be specifying which company you are running under which registration. But why we are assigning the legal entity to primary ledger? Without assigning the legal entity to primary ledger, within the primary ledger, what are the balance and segment values you have, those you cannot assign to legal entity. Directly you cannot establish this relation. To do this activity, to assign balancing segment values to legal entity, we are assigning the legal entity to primary ledger. That is the point here we are discussing. Okay, here I didn't give that. Okay, this is what we have to understand. Anyway, we'll do in the system. Before that, just I am outlining how we have to work and what we have to understand. Okay, if you are getting the sense here, okay, or else you don't need to worry about it. If you have any query or doubt, you can ask me, no issues. We'll discuss, but still we have option to understand very detailed level when you are working on the system. Okay, so the simple process is, first we have to create the primary ledger. Almost we completed primary ledger. Just only retained earnings account we have to provide. That is only that task is pending. Think we completed. Then we have to create the legal entity. So what base will create the legal entity? Registration base. To run your business, how many registrations we have, those many legal entities will create. Always remember, okay, you never come across a scenario where one company has multiple registrations. Okay, one company means where you in one country. Okay, for multiple companies you can have multiple registration, or else for multiple companies you can have single registration, but generally you never come across one company will have multiple registration in one country for the same business. Not required. So then we'll create the legal entity and we'll create the relationship. Okay, we'll be assigning the legal entity to primary ledger. Then finally, within the primary ledger, what are the balance and segment values we have, those will be assigning to the right legal entities. That's how we'll be addressing the relationship, which company is running under which registration. So that what is the use of legal entities? It's for legal process, legal reporting purpose. Okay, so which will represent this is the registration to pay the tax and all other aspects. Legal entity can be used. It's all about, because when you're running the company you will be paying your tax and all by referring your registration numbers and all. So that's how this legal entity concept will work in our system. Okay, anyway, now we'll go and try. Okay, we'll go and try to assign returned earnings, to assign returned earnings account. Before that I'll just sign out and sign in. Okay, go to general ledger, vision operations, responsibility. Just expand this, expand journals, click on enter or any other function. It will open the complete responsibility. The navigator you can see here. Now what we are trying to do is we are trying to specify the returned earnings account to our primary ledger. So how to navigate to primary ledger? The navigation is setup, financials, accounting setup manager, accounting setup. Okay, anyway, if something is not working sometimes, that will become good practice for us. So here P3, click on go, click on update icon, and here we have a ledger options. Click on update. See here, as of now you can see here as a ledger options. Once you provide the returned earnings account by clicking on this update, this ledger options will be converted into our ledger name. That also you can see. Just click on update and click on next. Let's try now. Click on search. Still it is not opening. Need some more time. Okay, no issues, no issues. Okay, so before that we'll proceed with this. No issues, later we'll assign that. Okay, but as a process we'll do here, but since system is not supporting for now, we'll do it bit later. So anyway, before you go and record the transaction and before you do some other activities also, it should be ready. We'll make sure that by the time it will be ready. No issues. So done. So we created a primary ledger, but we don't have any legal entities, return earnings specification. No issues, we'll do it. The next step is create legal entity. We'll go and create the legal entity. Okay, take the task name. Take the task name as create legal entity. Okay, take the task name as create legal entity. Same navigation we have to take to create the legal entity. What are the navigation we taken to create the primary ledger? Okay, task name is create primary ledger. Task name is create primary ledger. Sorry, I'm sorry. Create legal entity. Okay, task name is create legal entity. So for legal entity, which navigation we have to use? What are the navigation we followed for? Okay, primary ledger creation, the same navigation. Let's see how to do that. Okay, task name is create legal entity. We'll go and create the legal entity. Navigation is setup financials accounting setup manager accounting setups. Okay, setup financials accounting setup manager accounting setups. Take this navigation. Okay, here by default we are landing on this page from where we created our primary ledger. The reason we are under this tab, accounting setups tab. Next to that we have a tab called as legal entities. Okay, next to that we have a tab called as legal entities. Okay, this is one place where we have legal entities. Other place is if you click on create accounting setup, from here also we have that option. So here also system is giving option create legal entity. From here you can create, or else through this tab also you can create, but from here not required. I'm just cancelling. No, you should just take this navigation. We'll be landing on this page. Okay, and what we are trying to do, we want to create the legal entity. So select tab called as legal entities. Select tab called as legal entities. Now click on create legal entity. Now click on create legal entity. Okay, click on create legal entity. So this is a page where we can create our legal entity. So here we have identification information and legal address information. Other section is general information. Fine. Now we are going to create the legal entity. The legal entity you have, okay, the registration you have in which country, that you have to select. Territory is nothing but country name. Here we have to give India. Type India and tab out, it will fetch the value from the search. And legal entity name. Okay, already we discussed how we can give the name. This is how you can provide ERP3 India legal entity. Give name as same. ERP3 India legal entity. Okay, this is what we given. What is the actual name? Okay, just for our identification purpose, legal entity name we are giving as ERP3 India legal entity. But what is the actual name, with which name you registered this? Name is say ERP3 India Private Limited. Okay, legal entity identifier. Okay, it's nothing but registration number you can provide here. Just you can provide any numbers. You don't need to go with the actual number format and all. Just you can enter any value. And the company PAN number, it's not mandatory, it should be 10 digits, etc. You can enter any value. Since we're going to do testing, you don't need to provide the real values, anything you can provide. Okay, then just you provide that information. Now we have to give the address. See, here we have two options: select existing address or create new address. If already address is created in the system, that address you can select from here. Otherwise you can go with this create new address radio option. It will open the relevant fields you can create. Let's go and create our own address for legal address. Okay, select create new address. Which address we have to provide here? Okay, which address we have to provide? It's very simple. With which address you have a registration? Normally your head office or corporate office address will be taken as a part of company registration. The same information you have to provide. Seems to there is some format issue, that is the reason it is displaying like this. Okay, no issues. Here location we can give. Okay, I'll say Hyderabad. One more point, remember here, this is a test environment. I mean, so say demo, visual instance. In the same environment, many people will be practicing. They'll be creating the legal entities. Maybe somebody may give very similar name or exact numbering also, what you are trying. And when you talk about locations, also the same with the same name, there could be some location. So when you are working in real time, definitely will be given the location means Hyderabad, the numbers etc. exactly will be providing. But this is a demo instance. Always I recommend you can go with the prefix of your company name. So that will be that will become some unique value in the system, where system won't throw some error message. Okay, I'll just say ERP tree Hyderabad to just make as a different okay value for location. I'm just entering, otherwise it's not this is not a process to give prefix as Hyderabad for location also. Okay, we should not give the ERP tree as a prefix for location called as Hyderabad, but just here I'm entering. If I give Hyderabad, I may get error message. Reason, there may be n number of locations with the same name and some relevant more just similar information. The plot or block number, just you can provide some number, and city, a town, say Hyderabad, and state you can select, but it's not mandatory. Country, so everything system is taking. Okay, just when you are creating the legal entity, we'll get a document from the client. The client will be giving all the documents to us, or else they email the registration information to us, or else the hard copy they may provide. By seeing that, we have to create the legal entities in the system. But now we have to understand the process how to create. We don't need to provide all the each and every field which are optional also. Now only this field is mandatory. You can see this star mark asterisk, and here this field. Rest of all fields are optional. Anyway, country system is defaulting based on territory whatever you given. And here general information, nothing is mandatory. If you want to provide any information optional, you can provide. Just I'll say currency as INR. So that's all. This is the information we have to provide. Okay, just click on apply. Then based on this information, system has to create the legal entity. Okay, based on this information, system has to create the legal entity. Okay, and when you are practicing, you may come across issue when you are trying with this. So in that case, what we have to do is we have to change the values. I'll show you that. Just okay. So if I click on apply, if you get error and all, because since this is a demo, you may get sometimes because the duplication of data for legal entity what you are creating, there may be many records which are very similar to that. In that case, so simply what you can do is you can change the legal identifier number, or else just PAN number, or else this location name slightly, just you can change, you can add some additional value, something else. Then generally that's how it works. That's how it will support. Okay, you try in that way. When you are practicing, if you have some issue, try to change some information or try to add some additional information to the respective legal identifier or PAN number or location, or within that whatever the information you provide. So that's how just you can try and you can make sure that, I mean, finally you can create the legal entity, because this is a test environment, into a demo. So that sort of issues you may face. If you face, that is how you can fix it. So now just click on apply. Now system should create the legal entity with a given name. Okay, let's see. It will give the confirmation also as legal entity is created. So same process we have to follow to create multiple legal entities. How many legal entities you have to create from the same page? You can create one by one. So we got a confirmation. We have successfully created legal entity called as ERP3 India legal entity. Okay, done. So as we discussed here, what is the next step? We create a legal entity. Now we have to assign the legal entity to primary ledger. Okay, we have to assign the legal entity to primary ledger. We'll do that. But here we are not able to select retained earnings account into our primary ledger, right? That is also one point. Okay, we'll try once again that. Operations, welcome. Because why I'm just doing this exercise means just once I log out and log in, the update system may take the updates. With that expectation, I'm just trying in this way. So here, this is the responsibility, and expand any one of the submenu. Click on any one of the function. Set of financials, accounting setup manager, accounting setups. Search for our legal entity, then click on go, click on update. So this sort of issues generally we never come across. Only this step here only we see this kind of issues. Okay, further when you are working on other areas of work, you never come across. Still it is not updated. There is no other option, just we have to wait. Sometimes it takes too much of time also. I guess that could be the current case. Okay, no issues. Okay, no issues. Now that setup is not completed. It's not recommended to go and complete those setups. Fine. Anyway, let's try to do it. Okay, let's try to do it. Okay, take the task as a assign legal entity to primary ledger. But basically, this should be done after selecting that returned earnings. But it's not working. Let's try. If system is going to support, we'll complete, or else we can see in the next session. Okay, task name is assign legal entity to primary ledger. Okay, so to do that, find your primary ledger first. Okay, what we are going to do? We are going to assign legal entity to primary ledger. Yes, primary ledger we have, but we don't have returned earnings account since system is not supporting. We didn't enter, but primary ledger is ready. Let's try to assign primary legal entity to primary ledger. How to do that? Go to this accounting setup manager, same page. Here, search for your primary ledger. Click on go, and click on update. Take all the points. We are going to assign legal entity to primary ledger. So to assign legal entity to primary ledger, first we have to find your primary ledger, then click on update to open it. And this is our primary ledger name. Okay, and on top of it you can find the legal entities. If you add legal entity here, the meaning is we are assigning that legal entity to this primary ledger only. That's how the relation will be built in the system. So we'll assign the legal entity to primary ledger. How to assign? Just click on add legal entity. Okay, just click on add legal entity. We'll navigate to this page. Here also again you have to click on add legal entity, and here you can search for your legal entity. ERP3, click on go. Yeah, this is our legal entity. Select and click on select. Then simply you can say apply. That means this legal entity will get assigned to our primary ledger. So I'm cancelling to do once again. Okay, the requirement is we have to assign the legal entity to primary ledger. We have to assign the legal entity to primary ledger. How to do that? As per navigation, this is the navigation, same. Accounting setups. It will be taking us to accounting setup page. Here search for our legal entity, primary ledger. Click on go and click on update. And this is our primary ledger information. The same page. Okay, you can see the legal add legal entity option. Click on add legal entities tab. Again click on add legal entity. Now search and find your legal entity. Which legal entity you want to assign to your primary ledger? Just click on go and select and click on select. That will be selected here. Once you click on apply, this legal entity will get assigned to our primary ledger. Just click on apply. Then see here. Now you can see here. Okay. So just we assigned. Fine, done. Now what we have to do is, what is the next step? So we have to assign the balance and segment values to legal entity. So let's see how to assign the balance and segment values to legal entity. To which legal entity you want to assign? To this legal entity. So legal entity level only, we have one option called as update balance and segment values. Update balance and segment values. Just click on update. Click on update. It will open this page. Here we have one tab called as add balance and segment value. Click on add balance and segment value and click on go. So within our primary ledger, these four companies, four balance and segment values we have. These four we are going to assign to this legal entity. Okay, I'll just repeat this setup. Okay, we assigned primary ledger to this legal entity, right? We assign this primary ledger to this legal entity. Now the next step is we have to assign balance and segment values. Means within this primary ledger we have balance segment values. Those we have to assign to this legal entity. How to assign? How many we have? 4. So to assign to this legal entity, against this legal entity, click on this update icon. Click on that. We'll navigate to this page. Here again click on add balance and segment value. Now simply just click on go. It will display all the balance and segment values which we have in our primary ledger. Now you may select one by one, or else here we have option called as select all. All will be selected. Now say select, selected. Now click on apply. Now these 4 balance and segment values will get assigned to legal entity. Those you can see in this field: 1000, 2000, 3000, 4000. Okay, so this is how we have to do. And before that, it is a mandatory. We have to provide ledger options also. Otherwise, you cannot complete this ledger. That is there. Okay. So anyway, done. Once again, let's try to provide that return earnings account. Any chance? Still it is not getting enabled. Okay, only the option is after some time. That means we'll see in tomorrow session. Okay, just note all these points what we have to do. Okay, we're done with everything. Primary ledger we created only, but only we are not able to provide the return earnings account, which is a mandatory step to proceed with the primary ledger. But by skipping that simple point, we created legal entity. The legal entity we assigned to primary ledger. Within the primary ledger, what are the balance segment values we have? Those we assign to legal entity. Up to that we did only the pending activities. Returned earnings account we have to select after selecting the returned earnings account into primary ledger. We have to complete the primary ledger creation. There will be separate option to say complete. That will get once it's everything is fine. We'll see that. That's all about for today. If you have any questions, please. Any questions?
I have one question
Please.
regarding to there was issue on assigning BSV to primary ledger said, but let's
Sorry.
about the legal entity.
No, I lost what you are explaining. Could you please repeat?
Okay. Yeah. So there are 4 steps basically: create primary ledger, legal entity, and assigning legal entity to PL. Could you please explain me the step number 3 once again? Assign legal entity to primary ledger. Yeah.
Yeah. See,
The BSP one.
one side we have primary ledger. One we have as a primary ledger. Okay. Other one we have as a legal entity. Between these two, we have to make the relation. For that reason, this legal entity will assign to primary ledger. When we assign legal entity to primary ledger, in primary ledger, what are the balance and segment values we have, those we can assign to legal entity. Directly, when you have primary ledger and legal entity, what are the companies we have within the primary ledger, those we cannot assign to legal entity directly. That is the reason just we are building the relation. First, legal entity you are assigning to the primary ledger, so that within the primary ledger, what are the balance and segment values you have, you can assign to legal entity. That's what we did as a 4th step. I'll just give you a simple example. For example, just if somebody need money, from whom they can get? Can they go and get from unknown people? No. There should be some relation, maybe friend or relative or something. In that case only there will be option to take or give. In the same way, now your requirement is we have to assign the balance and segment values whatever we have in the primary ledger to legal entity, but these two doesn't have any relation. For that reason, to assign the balance and segment values to legal entity, okay, to assign this, we are first assigning legal entity to primary ledger, so there is some connectivity relation. Then we are assigning the balance segment values to legal entity. That's what we are doing. Okay, so this is just simple point. The same we did in the system also. Okay, the system also we did the same point. See, this primary ledger, this legal entity we assign to this primary ledger. Why we assign? To assign these balance and segment values to this legal entity from the primary ledger. Because we assign that to here, that is the reason system is allowed to assign the balance and segment values which are related to this primary ledger to this legal entity. That's it. Fine. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one more question. In this scenario, we have 4 businesses and we have 1 legal entity.
Yep.
And obviously there is a 1-to-1 relationship was there. If, for instance, if for legal compliance we need to have 4 businesses, line of business.
Here 4-to-1. We got a 4-to-1 relation. 4 balance segment values, 1 legal entity. 4-to-1 relation. Many to 1. You can have 1-to-1.
Okay.
1-to-1 means you have 4 companies, 4 registrations. That means 4 legal entity. Each balance segment value will be assigned to the respective legal entity. That is 1-to-1. Okay, go ahead with your question, please.
Yeah. Do we need to have a 4? I'm to say 4 primary ledgers required to, for example, different legal entities are there. Then in that case, should we have 4 PLs?
Because you have multiple registrations in one country, for that reason you don't need to go with the multiple primary ledgers. If you have all the registration in one country, minimum 1 primary ledger is required. When we are doing the implementation, how many legal entities we require, how many primary ledgers required, this points very detailed level I'll explain in the case of multi-year concept. There I'll explain how many primary ledgers really required. But as for our example, if company has 4 registrations, the 4 registrations in the same country, one primary ledger is enough. And there are some other parameters which makes the difference, where company may need more than one primary ledger. Those cases also I'll be explaining you. But in the simple general case, if you have 4 registrations, because of the 4 registrations, you don't need to go with the 4 primary ledgers. One primary ledger is enough in one country.
Okay, so unless and until there is a 4C changes, then we should have. Otherwise, we can use the secondary ledger as well.
Yeah, we'll discuss that. I don't talk on that now because that is a big confusion for others. The point which you are referring, I don't want to talk until there's changes and all. I don't want to take you into that. For now, simple point. Just try to understand this. Definitely, I'll give you the information what you are looking for. Because if I talk about that, it's a big confusion. Now only maybe first time people are seeing, definitely just it may be bit confusion till they start working on this. So this level, this is what to do, how to do. Just this is what we have to understand. And as per business how it works, and definitely I'll be explaining. For that we have a concept called multi-org, and what parameters will be deciding how many, when we within one country will have more than one primary ledger. Okay, within one country when we'll have more than one primary ledger, only one when we require. All I will be explaining as a part of multi-org. Any other questions, please?
I have a question.
Please.
Right now, we assigned 4 balancing segment values to one legal entity.
Correct.
So, in case in the future, if the company wants to maintain those 4 balancing segment values as a separate legal entities, is it possible in the system?
Yes, you can do that. Okay, in that case, only the option is you already assign here. You cannot go and reassign. So only the point is whatever you assign here, since you are going to have a separate legal entity for say company 4000, go and give the end date. Now we not yet completed this definition. That is the reason remove option is available. Once you provide return earnings account, will complete. Once you complete, remove option will be grayed out. Only the option is will give the end date, and the same value will be creating in the system, that will be assigning to the new legal entity. That's how we have to manage. But think, so generally how the companies are running, based on that will create it. Yes, as you said, in future if there are changes, this is how we can amend in the system.
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
Thanks. But many issues will come into the picture, because the existed all the transaction will be with this balance and segment value. Okay, and again all balance and segment values related transaction will be representing this legal entity. Again, from the changes what you do, and from the time it will be keep changing. That's all. Just it should be like it's a pre-planned, and this is how doing. Normally we don't come across this kind of scenario if some acquisition takes place, and those cases only. Again, there will be several discussions with the client how to go about it, whether they want to continue with the same logic or something else. There are many things will come into the picture. Okay, it's not a simple point to just to decide, as we discussed. Okay, any other questions? Fine, let's give a last trial to select retained earnings account. Still same. Fine, no issues, we don't need to worry about it. In tomorrow's session, what we'll do is we'll start with the session by selecting this retained earnings account. Then we can complete our primary ledger with a single action. Then we'll jump into the next topic called as I mentioned, responsibility creation. After responsibility, we'll assign the primary ledger to responsibility. Anyway, legal entity is assigned to primary ledger, right? Then we'll create this responsibility assigned to user. Anyway, we'll discuss and we'll do it.
Lakshman, this is Syed. What instance you are using? Same instance also we are using, or we are different instance for our practice?
You will get same instance, because yesterday only we installed it once again. There was some.
Yesterday I'm not able to access. Yeah, yesterday I tried actually. I'm not able to access.
Yeah. Fine. We'll just.
Yeah, Lakshman, sorry to interrupt. Basically, I was checking the instance out today. It's not 12.2.4. It's still the 12.1.3 I was able to.
I'm not sure. Okay. I think, see, this is as per plan, initially even I started the classes on older version, right? So that is the reason I think you might have got the email or access from our team for the same. Now we just upgraded and all that. Now we started the classes on this version. So we'll provide you just maybe by tomorrow we can give this instance access if possible. Otherwise, just I'm requesting everyone to wait for one more day. By day after tomorrow, for sure we'll be giving instance so that you can start with the practice. For now, we have the older version, but since we are running the classes on this latest, better we can go with this only. Probably we'll give by tomorrow. If not possible by tomorrow, from day after tomorrow, for sure we'll be getting the instance credentials to access and to do the practice. Just please wait for just one day, max 2 days. That's all. We'll fix this issue. Okay, we'll just work in that way. Find any other queries? Fine, seems to no questions for today. Okay, we'll just wind up the session for today. We'll connect tomorrow. In tomorrow class, what we'll be doing is just the target is adding the retained earnings account, since we could not do in today's session the system issue. So we'll do that and we'll complete the definition of primary ledger by doing some additional activity that I'll show you how to do that. Once that is done, our primary ledger is ready to use. Where we can use the primary ledger? Within the responsibility only. So for that reason, we'll go and create the responsibility. So we have to connect the primary ledger with the responsibility, so that within the responsibility you can use that primary ledger to record the transactions, and that responsibility you have to assign to the user. That user will be able to access that responsibility to record the business transaction by using the primary ledger. That's how it works. So fine. Any other questions? Fine, no questions. So we'll connect tomorrow same time. Okay, at least tomorrow I'll be starting sharp 7 o'clock. Okay, just so every day what happening is we are waiting for the people to join, but from tomorrow we are not going to wait. We'll be starting at sharp 7, no doubt. I'll be sending the meeting link before 10 minutes. We'll be receiving 6:50, and I'll be starting by 7 o'clock. Even 1 or 2 people are going to be in the meeting. Okay, fine. That's how we'll do from tomorrow, because every day we cannot wait and all. The people who are joining on time, they have to wait for others also, not only me. So that is the reason from tomorrow we'll be starting sharp 7. Okay, no need to wait for 1 or 2 minutes also. We can start. Everybody knows the timings. Okay, of course there may be some challenges to come and join exact time, but since we scheduled, we should follow. Okay, let's do in that way. Fine, that's all for today. See you tomorrow. Have a good day and good night. Thank you all.